Hello friends, welcome. Okay, today we are going to create our own SVG files. My friend Jenny, I have her permission to do this tutorial for her because I was like, this is a perfect teaching moment for everyone. Anyway, my friend Jenny, she was chatting with me on Instagram and she's like, I'm trying to figure out how to make this file. I need an iPad, I need this, that, and everything else. Like, I can't figure it out. She said, I didn't have the funds to do it. And I'm like, what are you trying to create? And she told me that she had bought a file from Etsy and it was a PDF and it wasn't what she needed for her laser cutter. And then she went and said that she paid someone else to create this file and the outline's still too thin. And then now she's coming to me for help. And I'm like, what? What is going on? And so she finally sent me the PDF file and she was like, I just need this. This is what she needs right here. And it's specifically just this outline and all the little pieces on the inside of it. I have another one right here. It's not glued down, so if I do let it go, it will pop out of place. But essentially all she was wanting is this outline piece and then all the little pieces to go in there and for it to fit snug like that, to where when she glues it all down from her laser cutter, it'll end up looking like a finished product like this. So she was like, how in the world do you do that? And I said, send me the file and I'll do it for you. I did it, and then a couple days later I messaged her and I said, hey, look, do you mind if I use that PDF file that you purchased and the file that I created for you to show others how easy it is to make this right here, this file right here? Because she was wanting to purchase all of this new equipment and everything else, and she didn't need to. She absolutely did not need to do any of that. I personally use a free file program, not a file, a free program called Inkscape. I'll link it down in the descriptions, of course. It's free. You can do it on Windows and Mac. I have Mac. I solely work on all Macs. Anyways, it is free. Yes, it's not as like user friendly as Adobe or other programs that aren't free, but it's free. So that's the amazing part of it, is that you don't have to pay gang's amount of money to make SVG files for yourself. And this particular file she wanted for her laser cutter, for her Glowforge, but you can make it for the Cricuts or for Silhouette, anything else like that. Anytime you need an SVG file, you can use Inkscape to make that for you, and it's free. So I know that there will be a little bit of frustrations and hiccups. I've been using this program for, gosh, like 6 years now. I don't know what all buttons do or anything else like that. I Google it. If there's something that I would like to figure out how to do, I just kind of Google it. There's somebody out there like me creating a tutorial to help you, teach you how to use this program. But at the end of the day, it is free. And that, to me, like, to save money in the very end, I would rather learn how to use a free program than spend a whole bunch of money on another program that you have to pay for. Okay, so let's get started. I am going to float myself up to the top, bring this down, put it in the corner. Okay, this is Inkscape right here. It kind of looks like, I'm trying to think of what the other program that other people use that looks like this, and I had it in my brain and now I forgot. But this is what Inkscape looks like. It's free. Okay, so Jenny had sent me over the PDF download that she had purchased off Etsy. It was a stained glass pattern, and it came like this. This is what it's supposed to look like after it's done, or what they suggest color-wise and everything else like that. And then you had this one, and then this one that has the numbers. We don't need the numbers. That's like unnecessary for us, especially when we're creating something like this. And I always like to create finished products while I'm doing these tutorials, so I can kind of show you exactly what we're doing. So that's why I have these to show you. Okay, so you don't need the colors, and you do need this. So a black and white, you could use the colors if you wanted to, but since Jenny sent me this PDF file and it had the black and white, that's perfect. If you have a black and white file, that's exactly what you want to do. So for me, what I am going to do is I am going to take a screenshot of this. So for me in my Mac, it's Command, Shift, and 3. Just going to take a screenshot of this. The sun is blaring. And I just want to clip everything else out besides the gnome itself. And the sun is blaring on my screen, so it's kind of hard for me to see what exactly I'm doing here. Here we go. Okay. So you can see I'm just kind of clipping out everything, but it's okay if you have a little bit of the letters left over. You're going to delete that here in a second and just save that to your desktop or wherever. I always, when I'm working on SVG files, especially when I'm clipping things, I always go to my, I always put it to my desktop. Okay, we're going to make this a little bit smaller. And here is the very top. This is the one that you just screenshot. And we're just gonna drag that in, and then you can see a plus mark, just drag that in. This little file box pops up. I don't, you know, I've been using this for so long, never change anything on here. I just press OK. So this is your screenshot. This is what got brought into Inkscape. If you were to file and save this, it won't save correctly at all. You're just saving your screenshot, which you already have, so it's not necessary. What you want to do is you want to trace this. You want to get the outline of it. So here, let me put that in the middle. Okay, so you can right click, make sure it's clicked onto the thing. If it's like this and you right click, nothing will pop up. If you want to make sure you click on your image that you just imported and right click on there. Sorry, I'm like trying to figure out the best lighting. There we go. Okay, so we want to right click, and then you want to press this little area right here. It says trace bitmap. Another box will open up. Real quick, just press update. So you can see that now all the lines that you need, I can drag this over so then you can actually see, you know, what you're dealing with here. So all of the lines that you are going to need are there. Everything you see here is there. You do have the lettering, it's fine. We'll delete that here in a second. Okay, so the brightness threshold. If you're dealing with lighter colors, like if we wanted to use this one right here, not all of your colors will show up because some are lighter. So then you'll want to just adjust the brightness threshold, which you can tell as I do that, the lines start to get a little bit distorted in some areas. It's fine. You can, I guess it's just for user preference. If we're going to make it thicker here in a second, so we don't need to do that. But again, if you don't see all the lines that you need for your SVG file or the one thing that you're tracing, then all you do is you adjust your brightness. And the automated number is 0.45. If you go below 0.45, you can see and keep pressing update that the lines get a little bit thinner. And I don't really want the thin lines, so I'm going to go back to 0.45. Just because that's where it was before, and then press update. Always make sure and update. So if you're adjusting numbers and you're like pressing things and you're not seeing any changes, make sure and press update. And as long as you don't come over here and do anything over here, you're fine. You're golden. You can continue updating. You can continue changing. But when you got your finished look, which is exactly what we have right here, press OK. It'll look like nothing's happened, but as long as you press OK, you're fine. Go up to the right and just close this little box. Okay. Now, again, it says it looks like we didn't do anything, but if you click on the top area and you drag it over, oh, it's cusping. So cusping is like it's locking into place like that. If you don't want to do that, I always turn this off. Just go to the very right at the top, and this enable snapping, just turn that off. And so then it will move freely and it won't want to cusp on top of each other. Okay, so if we move this and we go over This is the bottom one. And how you can tell it's the bottom one, this line right here, this like box, that's your workspace. It's set to like 8.5 by 11. That's their default. You can change that if you wanted to. It's not necessary for today. But if you drag this over around your project box and you don't see the inside of it, then that is your original image. It would be easier to tell because if it was in color, because you would obviously tell that this was in color and you wanted it in black and white. If you drug this over, dragged something, and you can see, like, let me put this over to the very left, and you can see the project box is behind that. This is the trace. This is what you want to keep. This you don't want to keep. We don't need it. After we got our trace, we can delete it. Okay. So we'll put that one back in the project box. Next on the list is getting rid of this this lettering. We don't need it. It's unnecessary. We're only looking for these pieces. This piece and all these little pieces. That's all we're looking for. So what you want to do is go over here to, this is the node selection. Click that, and all the nodes will all light up on the box. So if you have multiple pictures of images on your project screen, whatever it is that you're working on, those nodes will pop up. We only have one image right now, so of course that's going to be the only one that doesn't pop up. If by chance you don't have it clicked right now and there's nothing selected and you go over to the nodes and nothing happens, just come over here and just select the image that you're wanting to work on and it'll pop up for you. Now what you want to do is just drag over your cursor and highlight all the nodes you do not want. We don't want those, and just delete them. Just press delete and they are gone. So this is exactly what we want. We want the entire gnome in its entirety. Go back up to the arrow key. There are a couple different ways of doing this. The easiest way to do this, and I will show you the easiest way because if you do it the hard way, it'll be frustrating. So let me show you the easiest way. The easiest way to do this is you want to duplicate this item. At the very top, there is a spot where you can duplicate. I do keystrokes, which on the Mac, it's Command D is duplicate. It will look like nothing just happened, but if you drag over on the top, now you have two of the same thing. If you're working in design space with the Cricut thing, when you duplicate, it moves it over, which sometimes gets a little frustrating. This one, it doesn't. When you duplicate it, it's going right to the very top. So you do have to drag over your duplicate copy, which is this right here. So we'll just put this over here to the right because we don't need that for right now. Okay. This right here is our guy. Wait, Jenny wanted, okay, so hold on. Let's take a step for a second here. Jenny wanted a thicker border on hers like this. She wanted it thicker. If she were to cut this right now, just the way it sits, it would be really thin, which is exactly what she got when she had paid someone to make this SVG file. She got it just like this, where it was like a thinner file. If you want it thin like that by all means, you can stop right here and then you can stop this next step and then move on to what I'm about ready to show you or what I wanted to show you. But she needed it thicker. And the only reason why for that is when you cut it with acrylic is plastic and it bends a lot easier. So when it's too thin, it really does bend and it doesn't cut well and it kind of burns and melts. So she wanted it thicker. So how you did that, let me delete the duplicate because it's not going to be duplicate after we're done doing this. Okay, she wants it thicker. So there's two ways of doing this. You can do it with, if you came up to path and offset or outset, and it makes things thicker or larger or or what's it called in design space, an offset. That's essentially what you're doing. You're creating something that's thicker. For the Mac, it's Command Shift and then the parenthesis out. And see how it just made it thicker? So let's go Command Z. That's going back. See how it's thin and it's thick. Oops. Let me highlight that again. Okay, that's thick, that's thin. So that's what you're doing. You're creating a thicker line. So for Jenny, I did it a couple times. So Command Shift and then the parenthesis out. And that seems about what I did too. I did too, to make it a little bit thicker for her. Okay, now we have that. If you did not want a thicker line, then you didn't have to do that step. Now you can continue on to what I'm about ready to show you. Okay, so now we want to duplicate that, which is Command D on a Mac. Or if you go up at the very top where it says, it is File, and then you could do duplicate right here, and see it tells you right here, Command D. Okay, come over, drag this over to the right. Eventually we'll get there. Okay, so now that you have this, you're gonna have two, essentially what you have is two of these. And they're not individual cut files at all. They're just, if you were to cut this, it were to cut like, that's why I don't have it glued down. To show you, if you stopped right now, you would have to cut this thing multiple times all the time to get all of these pieces in different colors. So we want each individual piece to be its own color. I should have never lifted this up. Okay. This is essentially what you're going to have. It's just one SVG file, and all of it is going to be one color. So what she wants is each individual piece being its own color, so she can move it around or change the colors very easily. So they want all individual separate pieces. So what you want to do now is you have one duplicate. We'll drag that over to the side. Select the one that you have on your work table, go up to Path, and press break apart, or it's Control Shift K, but just press Path and break apart. All of these things just popped up and all of your things just disappeared. All the inside little pieces just disappeared. That is fine. Now we have, if you deselect everything, select the top, we have, drag that one over. Okay. Now we have this part minus the stick. This is what you just drag from the top. It always does that. The backer piece, whatever is the most of, it always saves. So this is the backer piece. This is what just saved at the very top, what you just drug over. Now you have all these little pieces, and if you select them, they're all individual pieces. So now this is what you have right here. All these little pieces right here that you can change to do this. You can do a red, a white, we have royal blue, so you can change all these now individually. Before, if you were to do that before with this, it would not let you do that. It would only change the outline, which is exactly what you have. So you don't want that. So now I'll go back and we'll do light blue, and both these little guys are gray. So I'm going to shift and select both, and we'll change that to gray. There you go. So now you have all these little pieces. Oh, his nose is brown. So let's change it over to brown. Okay. Now this right here is this. This is what you're left with. And this is what you want. So now if you were to take this, drag it over to the top, they will fit. It's hard to do it on the computer to make sure that it lines up all the way. Okay, there it is. So you now have this, you have all these little pieces, and you have just the outline minus the stick. Now, if you want to create the stick, Jenny did not need the stick. She's doing this entire project for something very different than what I've created for you. But at least you figured out how to make your own SVG file. That's right. If you want to do the stick, I had created this to be like a garden planter thing, or like a plant stake. So we need a little stick, and the stick is only on the backer plate. That's the stick that I created. So in order to do that, I want to drag this outline away so it remains 3 separate pieces. Okay, so we want to create this stick. If you're wanting to create this garden pick, what you need to do is you need to highlight the thing that you're working on, get the box little guy, and you just kind of want to drag it around. You want it to be touching. You want it to touch this part right here because you're getting ready to weld them together or push them together. Same kind of concept like in Design Space, in Cricut's Design Space, where you're welding things together. You want to conjoin them. You want to put them together. So make sure that whatever it is that you're, like this rectangle, you are touching some shape or form to the place that you're wanting to put it together. I don't remember the size I created. It's not really necessary for exact measurements for the stake. Now, when you look at your rectangle, there's no like sharp point, which I do have a sharp point. So now all you want to do is go over into the Create Stars and Polygons button, click that. Up here at the very top, it says 3 corners. Rounded, I don't want any round. I want it to be sharp. So I want 0 rounding. And a polygon or a triangle has 3 corners, which that's what I want to create. And just kind of draw a small little triangle. That's it. Then go back up. You always want to go back up to your select tool so you can select things. Otherwise, that if you still were selected onto the polygon thing, you'd be drawing another rectangle. Okay, let's zoom in on this. Zooming in on Inkscape for me on my trackpad is like this. I think that there's another way of doing that on the Mac. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, here we go. View and then zoom, and you can zoom in, zoom out. Or the plus or minus button is what it says. But I always just trackpad and do this. If I want to zoom out, then you go backwards. But zooming in, you want to squeeze and zoom in. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in on this thing. And it's kind of like cockeyed. It's not normal. So if you have your triangle selected and you click on it, the arrows, that turning arrows, that's exactly what you want. And then just turn it to where it is facing down, which we just went way too far. Facing down. There it is. Okay. A little bit too, I know. We're like, there we go. Okay. Unclick that. Click it back and just kind of drag it back over. And remember, we're welding it together, so it needs to touch. So your triangle needs to touch your rectangle, and your rectangle needs to touch the very tip of your gnome shadow. So with the triangle selected, then press Shift and select your rectangle and select the gnome. So you're going to have 3 sections selected. Want to make sure that it's all centered. So go up to the very top right here where this Align and Distribute box. Click that, and then this will pop up on the right. Make sure and center on the vertical axis. There it is. Okay, so now it's completely centered. So for welding, you do Path and Union. It is called Union in Inkscape. So press that, and that's it. So now you have this entire thing right here. If you zoom in at the very tip of this right here, you can tell it's not, let me see if I can show you. See how it's like nice and smooth for me on either side? And in your design, it's not that way. There's kind of like an angle. We can use the nodes again. So the nodes button. So click that nodes button. It's already selected on our thing that we want to edit. And see how there's like extra nodes there? I don't want those nodes, right? So then you would just select the ones you don't want. It's going to distort the lines. Don't freak out. Select the nodes you don't want. And you see how the lines are now like all wiggly? That's fine. It's no big deal. If you, with the nodes button, you want to just move these lines until they end up making the design or the angle that you want. I like that. And then make sure and go back up to the arrow button and then zoom out. Oop, whoa, we zoomed out a lot. Okay, and then zoom out. So now you have a complete finished file using a PDF that you purchased off Etsy. That's it. If you wanted to, you could create this entire thing. Now, if you are using this for your Cricut design space, you don't have to go any further. You can save this entire file, and then it will open up into design space perfectly. If you're creating this for a laser cutter, specifically the Glowforge, there are a few more extra steps you're going to need to take in order for this to be a perfect working laser file. Get in the habit of doing this. You could technically save this the way it sits, open it up into Glowforge, and it would work. It just creates a lot of confusion within the actual program because everything is going to think that it's something else. So, and also, if you ever decide to go outside of Glowforge and move over into a different laser company, like I have an Epilogue, you're going to need to save the files exactly these next steps, which is very important. So, all of them are going to be cut files, you want to cut all of this out. There's no engraving, there's no scoring, there's nothing else. So what you want to do is Command A or select all. That's what we want to do. Go down at the very left right here where it says fill, you want to remove the fill. And then where it says stroke and it says unset, sometimes it says black. Most of the time it'll say unset. Right click that and press black. And how I did the removing the fill is right clicking as well. Right click, remove fill, then go down to the little box with stroke and press right click and black. Now, if you were to stop right here, some of these lines look a little bit different. Select A again and go over here to the number that's right next to the stroke. Right click that. You always want it at 0.1. And now you can see that the lines got thinner. That's exactly what you want. And then just, you can save this the way that you want to. But now each individual thing, you just told your laser cutter, you're cutting all of this. This is what you're doing. You're cutting all of this. And in order for you to click it now, because there is no fill, you're gonna have to make sure, and like when you are clicking, you click on a line. Okay, so let's save this. So go to File, Save As. You don't want an Inkscape SVG. You want it to be a plain SVG. And we're just gonna call this, go up here. We're gonna call it gnome SVG. That's what we're gonna call it. We're gonna press save. I'm gonna go up into a new window, go into Glowforge's website. It will load eventually. Okay, go up into create right here to the very top left, upload from file, find the file that we just created. I saved it to my desktop so it wasn't hard at all. Press return and it'll start loading into Glowforge's app soon. Okay, so now you have your three images. You have your outline, you have all of your individual cut files. And then if you were to select medium clear acrylic, everything is set to cut, which is exactly what you wanted. And it's going to be the cleanest, crispest cut ever. And then you just go to cut. That's it. This is super simple and super easy. If you have any other questions when it comes to Inkscape, let me blow myself up real quick. If you have any other questions on Inkscape, I am for you. I will help you, because it's not hard to figure out. It does take a little bit of a learning curve, but it's definitely worth it because it is free. Hopefully you're able to create this file as well. I would totally be excited to see what creations you create with using the steps that I just showed you. But all right, on to the next tutorial. Have a good day. Bye.